They often say that the semi-finals are better than the actual final themselves. And when you look through the archives, you can see that there's been some absolute corkers. Who can forget Liverpool coming from 3 goals down to beat Barcelona 4-3 in 2019, or Ajax thumping Bayern Munich 5-2 in 1995, or Italy defeating Germany 4-3 in the game of the century, or even when Real Madrid overcame Barcelona 15-11. Hang on a minute. 15-11? 15-11? No, that's not right. Oh. Blimey. In this episode, we'll be exploring how a semi-final between 2 of the biggest teams in European football could possibly finish 15-11 on aggregate. Did both teams throw caution to the wind? Did the defensive coaches from both sides take a holiday? Or was there skullduggery afoot? Spoiler, the answer is yes. The 1916 Copa del Rey semi-final would see Real Madrid take on Barcelona to determine who would meet Athletic Bilbao in the final of the tournament. The tie was due to take place over 2 legs, with the first match taking place on March 26th at the Camp del Carrer de Montaner. Carrer de Montaner. Okay. With the first match taking place on March 26th at the Camp del Carrer Montaner in Barcelona. I think I got that right. I think I absolutely nailed that. And the return leg on April 2nd at the Campo de O'Donnell in Madrid. See, that's a much easier name to pronounce. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's add some context. The rivalry between Real Madrid and Barcelona that existed in 1916 was nowhere near as impassioned as it is today. In fact, before the 1916 tie, the 2 teams had only officially met once before, in the 1902 Copa de la Coronación, which the Catalans won 3-1. The reason for this was there was yet to be a national league formed in Spain. They'd have to wait for 1929 for that. So the only opportunities that both sides had of facing each other outside of friendlies was in the Cup. While both teams were the most successful in their respective regional leagues, they'd managed to avoid each other in the Copa del Rey since their encounter in 1902. Weirdly, the peak of either team at that period seemed to align with the trough of the other, like a weird La Liga-shaped yin and yang. So when Real Madrid met Barcelona in the semi-final of the 1916 Copa del Rey, the 2 biggest sides in Spain would meet for the first time, officially, in 14 years. The first 2 legs occurred mostly without controversy. Real Madrid would take the lead in the first leg in Barcelona with a goal from Juan Petit, but it would be Barcelona who would be victorious after Paulinho Alcantara equalised and Vicente Martinez scored the winner to give the Catalan side a 2-1 win in the first leg. The second leg took place a week later at the O'Donnell Field in Madrid. In a game that saw Real take their first victory against their future rivals, they won the match 4-1 courtesy of a hat-trick from Santiago Bernabeu, the footballer, not the stadium. So I know what you're thinking. Real Madrid won the tie 5-3 and marched on to the final. End of video. Except you know it's not the end of the video because A, that's a very boring story, and B, a different scoreline is literally in the title of the video that you just clicked on. As with a lot of regulations and stipulations that we now take for granted, aggregate scores hadn't made it as far as Spain yet, so goal difference didn't matter, and only the wins were taken into account, meaning that this tie needed a tiebreaker. This is where the first point of contention occurred. The first was the decision to play the game at a neutral venue, which in itself may not sound too contentious, until you find out that the neutral venue was the O'Donnell Field in Madrid. How did this happen? Well, it turns out that there's 2 O'Donnell Fields, one that was used by Real Madrid, and another 200 metres away that was the home of Atletico Madrid. Perfectly neutral. The second and bigger controversy was the choice of referee for the game, José Berraondo. I really hope I haven't butchered that name for the sake of this video.
José Berraondo.
José Berraondo.
José Berraondo.
José Berraondo was a former footballer who played for Real Madrid between 1904 and 1909. The idea of having former players as referees at the time was far from uncommon. In fact, the first leg of the tie was refereed by a former Barcelona player, Leandro Aguilera, while the referee of the second game, Ezequiel Montero, was even an active footballer at the time, plying his trade for Racing Club de Madrid. The problem with Berraondo was that not only did he captain Real Madrid during his time at the club, but who was also on the losing side of the 1913 Copa del Rey final in his last year as a professional player, as his Real Sociedad side lost to Barcelona. So it's easy to see, particularly with a little hindsight, just how Berraondo couldn't exactly be described as an unbiased official for the game that lie ahead. The game would take place 11 days after the second leg on April 13th, and even by 1910 standards, it was fucking mental. Madrid opened scoring in the second minute with a goal from Luis Berraondo, before the big man in the stripes, or whatever referees wore back then, José Berraondo, awarded Real Madrid a penalty. Santiago Bernabéu, again not the stadium, stepped up to take the penalty, but missed. Barcelona then took the initiative, scoring an equaliser through Paulino Alcántara. Barcelona's goalkeeper, Louis Bru, who had an eventful day at the office, then scored an own goal to gift the lead back to Real Madrid in the 23rd minute, before Alcántara came to his side's aid again with another equaliser in the 30th minute. Alcántara thought he had bagged a hat-trick before half-time, only for Berraondo to disallow it. For what, I can't find in my research, so I'm going to assume it was some minor infringement, like breathing on the goalkeeper or not having his shoelaces tied in the right way. After the break, Madrid restored their lead once again in the 55th minute through Berraondo, before goals from Casemiro Malarkey and Gabriel Bau put Barcelona ahead 4-3. Not happy with how this might affect his fantasy football team, Berraondo awarded a second penalty to Madrid. This time, Sotero Aranguren would step up to take the penalty, only for it to be saved by Louis Bru, with his head amazingly. Though these heroics would be short-lived, as Berraondo scored again anyway in the 87th minute to secure his hat-trick and take the game to extra time. Full-time sangria consumed, Real Madrid came charging out the blocks, retaking the lead in the 98th minute through Bernabéu, only for Barcelona to fight back again, once through Alcántara, sealing his own hat-trick, before Vicente Martinez scored to give Barcelona the advantage. However, our old pal Berraondo wasn't finished for the day. In the 118th minute, he awarded Real Madrid their third penalty of the game, though if reports are anything to go by, then this one was a stonewall. This time Bernabéu stepped up and dispatched the penalty to level the game 6-6. Berraondo blew for full-time shortly after, and with penalty shootouts not being invented yet, that meant another replay was required. Barcelona would have been no doubt fuming after the result. Not only had Berraondo awarded 3 penalties against them, but he also disallowed one of their goals, which very well may have been the winner. Well, they were about to get even more fuming. The second replay and fourth match of the tie would once again be played at O'Donnell Field, the Atletico one mind, and the official for the game would be no other than the main man himself, José Berraondo. In the build-up to the game, Real Madrid suffered the loss of their hat-trick hero from the previous game, Luis Berraondo. Again, records from the time are sketchy, so I'm going to assume to injury and not lost in the field somewhere. Real Madrid reportedly replaced Berraondo with a player known as Zabalo. Aside from having a sick name, I can't find any record of the man known as Zabalo. There was a Zabala who played between 1917 and 1930, another Zabala who played one season at Vasconia SC in their 1909-1910 campaign. There was also Ramon Zabalo, who would go on to play for Barcelona, but he would have been 6 years old at the time of the match, so probably a little young to be hanging around the Madrid Youth Academy. As far as I can tell, this would be Zabalo's one and only appearance as a Real Madrid player, or a human being for that matter. Despite their pre-match reservations about having to play another game refereed by Berraondo in Madrid, with a potential extraterrestrial playing for the opposition, it was Barcelona who took the lead in the fourth match, with a goal from Vicente Martinez, who had the proud honour of being the only player to score in all 4 of the matches. Bernabéu then equalised for Madrid in the 25th minute. The Barcelona players, as well as the 5th official for the match, all called for offside, but Berraondo, who presumably was suffering from a temporary loss of hearing or vision, awarded the goal anyway, much to the dismay of the Barcelona players. Martinez, who presumably had enough of this shit by now, restored Barcelona's lead in the 38th minute. The second half played out in relative normality compared to the rest of the 2 replays. That was until the 85th minute, when the being known as Zabalo scored an equaliser for Real Madrid to make it 2-2. Not wanting to be outdone by Zabalo's late heroics, Berraondo awarded Real Madrid another penalty in the dying embers of the match. However, Iron Louis Bru refused to be beaten, saving the penalty and forcing the game to extra time yet again. The final 30 minutes proved to be too much for Barcelona to handle. Sotero Alangulan scored twice in extra time to give Real Madrid an infamous victory. In the second of the two goals, it was said that the Real Madrid attackers had grabbed onto the Barcelona goalkeeper, which allowed Aranguren to score. Once again though, Berraondo saw no such impediment and awarded the goal anyway. With just 12 minutes of play left, and feeling like they had been absolutely fucked sideways, Barcelona's captain, Santiago Massana, said, "You can't fire me, I quit," and withdrew the team in protest to the perceived biased refereeing over the last two games. Both sets of coaches attempted to persuade the Barcelona players to return to the field, but the team had seen enough and hopped straight back on the bus back to Barcelona, or train or horse or whatever they would have had in 1916. And so, for the final time, Berraondo blew his whistle to call finally, mercifully, for full time in this Copa del Rey tie. Real Madrid had won the final game 4-2, totaling an aggregate score of 15-11 to Los Blancos. Reports of what had occurred in Madrid spread around the country, with sets of Barcelona and opposition fans calling for Berraondo to never be allowed to officiate again, and some even calling for his head. Madrid were less concerned about the manner of their victory. They had secured themselves a place in the final of the Copa del Rey for the 6th time in their history. As the Barcelona players returned home, they were given a hero's welcome by their adoring fans despite the loss. How could they have known how significant a part they had just played in Spanish football history? As for Real Madrid, they would go on to meet Athletic Bilbao in the final, only to be beaten 4-0 on the day. Unfortunately for them, Berraondo was not officiating the match. And as for the main man himself, Berraondo would go on to manage Real Sociedad, as well as his much-loved Real Madrid between 1927 and 1929. But he never gave up his true passion of being a football referee, and would go on to officiate more games, including the 1921 Copa del Rey final between Athletic Club and Athletic Madrid. While we might laugh at the absurdity of these games now, the tie has had a lasting impact of the footballing antagonism between the two sides. And while a lot of the rivalry carries a large-scale political connotation, this is reflected on as one of the first big shots in the ongoing rivalry between the two sides. And much of it down to one man and his magic whistle. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've made it this far to the end, then it's usually a good sign, a sign that you did. So why not give the video a like? It would really help support this channel and help it grow. And if you really enjoyed it and want to see more, then why not hit the subscribe button?